Discussed all of this with immigration attorney Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch.
A lot to talk about. Let's start off with the announcement by the Trump administration that they're now going to honor people with millions of dollars to have a waiver and get entrance into the United States.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to say about this, gold card program. I think number one, it obviously there aren't that many people who are going to be able to access it, so it really doesn't make that big of a difference in terms of immigration policy. But it's more of an indication of the behavior of the Trump administration. I mean, we've seen from this administration this engagement in what people call a kleptocracy, which is, a wealthy man who uses his position of power to enrich himself through, accepting a Qatari, $400 million plane, or having anonymous investors in Trump properties around the globe, or taking payments into a Bitcoin scheme and trading favors of the country. So this is it's a pattern of behavior that we've seen by the Trump administration, which is favors for enrichment. And to me, this is another version of that. And I worry about which billionaires from around the world are going to take advantage of this and what are they actually up to. That's where my mind goes with it.
And here recently we had a young girl having to go to court by herself, which in some ways is illegal in a lot of ways, because you're supposed to due process is one thing, and also have representation. Even as a minor, you still should have representation. And we've had cases here in Texas where people are being prosecuted or taken from airplanes, taken from the courthouse and by ICE. And this has happened on a continuous basis, and the answer from officials are that they have the right to do that. And it's skipping over the due process of people, even if they're not a citizen yet.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing case after case where the Trump administration violates certainly their constitutional rights to against search and seizure. Not having probable cause to detain people. They're violating due process rights, violating court orders, and it can be very difficult to enforce someone's rights if they're already out of the country. And so in a lot of these cases also, we see them rush to get people gone before anybody can do anything about it. And so the speed at which these enforcement actions and the removals occur is really dizzying. And then we see things like the Trump administration is now spending $140 million on deportation planes. They're buying planes to deport people, which is only going to speed up this process. And when we know that they violate court orders and due process rights, and now they're looking at ways to expand the ways that they can deport people, it is really, really concerning, because it's very hard to get somebody back once they're gone.
It seems what's going on now is that lawyers will lawyers for a client would ask, "Hey, where's the information on this person?" And you don't get any answer from ICE. You don't get any answer from government officials. So they delay that while they still have time to deport. So the person's not in the country anymore. And that's how we've seen that happen.
I mean, there's a litigation that can occur, and sometimes the courts will go with the plaintiff, but the biggest recourse we have is the midterms and our vote and taking back control of at least one of the three branches of government. I mean, it's fair to say Trump has control over all three branches of the government right now, and he is driving us as fast as he can over the cliff of authoritarianism. And unless we all wake up and get ourselves to the polls, by the end of this 4-year period, it's going to be real dark. And so, the people that I talk to people regularly who tell me, "Oh, I've stopped watching the news. I've stopped paying attention. I just can't take it anymore." And I don't think we can afford to do that. I think we have to be paying attention and being uncomfortable and being upset and talking about it because we've got to stir up a resistance to what is happening right before our eyes.
I mean, I'm hearing that young people, minors, are being picked up now and being split from their parents on a continuous basis.
I mean, I've worked on cases like this. I've had cases where families are detained and then they decide to split the family once they're in detention. I had this with a case of a family of 4, and the 2 little girls who were both under the age of 10 were sent to an unaccompanied kids shelter. Mom was sent one place and dad was sent another place. It's inexplicably, for no reason whatsoever. And that, I mean, in those cases, we try to get them back together as quickly as we can, but there's no, stated policy. I mean, there's some stuff about the detention of children and the conditions around that, but there are abuses like this occurring on a daily basis. Family separations are happening all over the interior of the United States. And it's, I mean, I know people don't like to draw comparisons between World War II and what we're experiencing now, but in some cases, in some ways, when you talk about like taking parents off the street, separating families, a lot of this is clandestine. It's hard to find people. It's hard to find the information. And we have got to be like talking loudly about it. And I start to feel like people are getting fatigued by the trauma of it or desensitized. And again, I think we have to just like be screaming at the top of our lungs that this is not who we are. We will not tolerate family separations at the hands of the United States government. It's inhumane. It's not who we are. And we've got to get the people in power out of power who are driving these policies.
These ICE agents are going in Chicago and other mostly democratic cities, and saying that they're ridding the excuse they used at first was they're ridding the country of criminals. But everywhere they go to arrest people, they go to people's workspace. The people are working. So the whole excuse, and they're using it, and the president, the U.S. president, is still using that excuse as we're getting criminals off the street. That's just not. I don't think people are buying that anymore.
No, they're definitely not. I mean, most of us know someone who has been personally impacted by this. So most of us now have an anecdotal story about your neighbor or the kid down the street or your friend or your nanny, and you know that person was not a criminal. Or you've seen the data and the statistics that say more than 70% of the people apprehended have no criminal history whatsoever. We see the story of the college freshman in Boston who was flying home to surprise her parents in Austin, and she gets picked up at the airport, and in a rapid deportation, she's gone within 48 hours. So I think we're all pretty clear now, and I've had people DM me on social media who say, I voted for Trump. I was for this because I thought that they were going after the criminals, but now I see that was a lie. And I think that is true. That's why public opinion is plummeting for Trump and his immigration actions. Now, he doesn't seem to be caring that everybody's mad about it. He's, driving forward as hard as it gets. But we're all definitely noticing what's happening.
Can you talk about that case that the girl was picked on a domestic flight, not an international flight, on a domestic flight, and being picked up by ICE?
Yeah, she was flying. She was a freshman in college in Boston, and she was coming home for Thanksgiving to visit her parents and her family who live in Austin, actually, where I live. And probably, we don't know, but probably like going through TSA flagged something because there's so much surveillance and information sharing now under Trump that really, with all the facial recognition and the license plate reading, cameras and all the information sharing between all the federal agencies, like we are in a surveillance state. And so probably when she passed through security, gets to the gate, it flagged something and they detain her. And then they remove her over a court order. That's my understanding, that a judge had ordered a stop on her removal, but they removed her anyway. I didn't work the case, but that's what I heard. And sent her home, sent her back to Honduras. And now they're going after her parents. That's been reported too. You know, this family of like non-criminals, this little girl in college. And why? Why are we doing this? Who is benefiting from this? Nobody benefits.
How is it that she gets flagged and customs, I'm guessing customs would come and stop her at the gate, and she's on a through flight. How is it that any type of law enforcement, because she's not doing anything wrong, you know, so who will be flagging? Is the airline responsible for this, or is it somebody just seeing her responsible for this? Or
nobody knows. They don't tell us, but my guess would be it's TSA, which is a part of the Department of Homeland Security.
TSA, correct me if I'm wrong, TSA doesn't have any type of immigration anything. All they're doing really is checking for weaponry and all that type of stuff going through security.
Correct. But one of the things that the Trump administration has done is connected all of these federal agencies in information sharing. So now the IRS shares information, DHS, TSA, you know, all these databases are connected now. Even though, TSA is not an immigration enforcement agency, because they're part of DHS, they're going to, you know, they're accessing information records. I don't know. That's what I think.
That's a privacy issue also. And it's not people out there that think that this crackdown is just for brown people. They just deported like 8,000 Haitians. And that's not even counting the amount of people that are being deported to African countries also. So this is happening all over. Have you had any cases besides Latinos?
Yeah, I mean, I'm an immigration lawyer in Texas, so most of my clients are Latino. But yeah, I've worked with a lot of immigrants from all over the globe, and you know, I would say that the people who get spared from all of these policies are the people from English-speaking white, and they are white people from English-speaking countries. You know, Western European, Australian, like those are the groups of people, South African. Those are the groups of people that the Trump administration doesn't go after. But there's no question about racism in their policies. I mean, they would just say it. I don't think they would even try to hide it.
What do you recommend? Can you give some recommendations for people out there that are listening that are trying to that have at least a little immigration issues?
Number one thing definitely every immigrant needs to do is have a relationship with an immigration lawyer. That means a consultation with a lawyer where they tell you what your options are, what your rights are, how to protect yourself, and if you can get legal status, awesome. I've had a lot of people say to me, well, I'm not eligible for legal status. How do I have a relationship with a lawyer? And because of that, in my firm, we created a program. It's called the Peace of Mind Program. And it is for undocumented people who are ineligible for legal status. And what it is it's a annual contract where we will give our clients a letter of representation. We'll give them a safety planning packet, help them with the caregiver authorization for their kids, collect their documents, give them a strategy session with a lawyer, and a special phone number to call in case of emergency. And that way we've already got all their information. We know what they want to do. So if they get picked up or something like that, we can act really quickly. So that would be my recommendation to immigrants, is that you have some level of plan and relationship with a lawyer, because what I see, we do detained cases at my office, and what I often see is people, they've been scared, but they haven't done anything, and then they get picked up, and then it's a total chaos scramble trying to gather information, documents, filing a bond application, all of that stuff, and it delays their release by weeks in some cases. And I wish for everybody to take action now and to do something to protect yourself before something happens and not after.
And they're picking up people that are citizens. People that are born in the United States are still being picked up by ICE. and still having to go through the same thing.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are, but they're also not staying detained for long. I mean, so U.S. citizens who get picked up, it is definitely happening, but U.S. citizens who get picked up are being released usually within hours or days.
That was immigration attorney Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch. She can be reached at 512-750-7770, or you can email her at kate@lincolngoldfinch, all put together, .com.